My big man them, woman them, and non-binary folk them. Listen, I got a confession to make. When I reveal to the average American what I about to reveal to you right now, they is look more shocked than when I tell them about systemic racism.
Mr. Redcorn?
Yes.
Are you sure it's the white man who did all that stuff? Because I come from white people, and this is the first time hearing of it.
During my time in Iowa, I've had a few revelations, but one that never fails to team me with wonder is how Americans feel like their culture is the only culture in the world. You mean to tell me that you've never been to a monster truck rally? Honey, y'all don't have Walmart? Jesus Christ on a back, I would damn near lose my mind. However, what never ceases to amaze me is the amazement on my colleagues' faces when I tell them that I haven't seen canonical American films. Air quotes around canonical. I had never seen Cool Runnings until watching it in preparation for this video up here, and then subsequently excoriating it. And I had never seen, and never wanted to see, Pirates of the Caribbean. Coming from the Caribbean, I didn't feel like I had to subject myself to this caricature of Caribbean culture. But you all kept on asking me what my thoughts is on this franchise, and now after watching it, I have a lot. And no, it's not about the glaring continuity errors, or even the obvious precipitous decline in quality between the first trilogy, which I think that a lot of people that are fans of this franchise would say the trilogy, the first 3 films, are the precipitous decline in quality between them and the last 2 films that rival only Drake's decline from If You're Reading This Is Probably Too Late and Take Care to Scorpion, Viewers, and CLB, the atrocity that is Certified Lover Boy, which can only be explained by the loss of notable figures from the OVO sweatshop like Quentin Miller and The Weeknd. But no, my qualms with the franchise are far different. It pertains to the absolute erasure of an experience that is essential to Caribbean history. And Disney's choice to avoid it speaks to their consistent lack of integrity when it comes to dealing with minority cultures. But first, let me pacify the diehards that are sharpening their forks and buttering up their fingers so they can get to their keyboard warring by regaling you in a story that shows what happens, the potential dangers when you avoid important conversations such as these. Because I can still see the faces of terror on the faces of the people that I love when I made this horrible and humiliating mistake. Now, quick trigger warning for extreme cringe. Like, I really can't stress this enough. I mean, I talk in the Office UK version or, peep show level cringe that we're dealing with right now. So if you can't handle that, you know where to go. To think that a modest outing with my little cousins would turn into a complete catastrophe. And Izzy, you shouldn't be watching this, but if you are, hard go, little bro. Everything good? Remember that time when I take you and Gabby to the IMAX? I actually think that I put that in my first ever vlog that I had on this channel. Well, this tortuous tale takes us back to that very day. I told my little cousins to get their things because big cousin Foreign about to broke himself by taking 2 kids to the IMAX, which is obviously equivalent to purchasing a home. It is one of the most ostensible and opulent manifestations of capitalism in the Bahamas, and that's saying something. So I loaded them into the car like protesting cattle and wended our way on to see Jumanji, which before I get into it was one of the most abysmal experiences of my short 26 years. I swear to God, I don't understand how The Rock keeps getting work. Apart from, what is he, like the spokesperson for the Chinese social security system or whatever it is? What the hell is he doing? Anyway, this Park Chan Wookian horror takes place in my vehicle. My cousins and I drive into the theater, having a good old jolly time, right? Having a gay old time, right? Till Izzy asks me to play some music. Now listen, I ain't have no Candy Crush or Angry Birds on my phone. None of my iPhone taking up valuable space. I gotta have the bare necessities like WhatsApp and things like that. My music library ranges from Death Grips to David Bowie, both of which are absolutely bewildering and not appropriate for 2 kids. So I made the big mistake that I will regret for the remainder of my life. And every day that I am allowed to freely trot this green earth rather than spending my waking moments in a jail cell is a blessing. Cause the crimes committed in that car on that solemn day should have had me spending the rest of my life in a jail cell with a fella named Eugene with bad hygiene. I put our lives, our collective lives, the collective lives in that vehicle I put that in the hand of an 8-year-old. Oh gosh. No, not the wheel. No, you see, not our actual lives, you know, that's hyperbole. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like Jesus take the wheel, or Izzy in this case take the wheel. No, I mean our oral lives, you know, our hearing. Cause I made the mistake of telling an 8-year-old to pick a song from my phone. That's a cardinal sin. I should have known better. I swear I should have known better. I should have known that this little jit was gonna go into my phone and to the deep, dark abyss that is my playlist and pick one of the vilest songs ever. Izzy, Israel, listen to me. Tell Aunt Nina to leave the room. She gone? I can wait till she gone. She gone? Okay. Tell me why you like this. Israel got put on a song by none other than Vybz Kartel. And if you watched any of these videos above, you would know the type of character that Vybz Kartel is. But Izzy managed to find one of the purplest songs that this man has ever made. I am positive that all my Caribbean people out there, honestly, yeah, no, I gatekeeping. There is no way that you're Caribbean and you don't know this song. But for my non-Caribbean folk, them, guess what? I can sing a couple of these lyrics and let me know. A lot of y'all might even know the song. Come here, fi wine pon the like this. Cartel spin me like a sucker like this. Deal with your breast like me crushing Irish. Spice, I never love like this. You are my mister. You are my miss. Give me with the tightness. And when you up and whisper something like this, I can't stop you. I need to sing the actual chorus. Y'all should know what this song was. These little suicide machines was singing Rompin' Shop by Vybz Kartel featuring Spice. I was more horrified than when I saw KD leg. You should have seen them contorting and gyrating up their little selves in my box seat. I wanted to turn the song off immediately. Like, this has to be like delinquency of a minor, you know, or exposing children to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. So I know this gotta be a punishable offense. I wanted to turn the song off. Trust me, daddy, I did. But guess where we was? We was on Prince Charles Highway, the most dangerous Gaza strip of road in the Bahamas. If I take a second to blink, let alone change the radio or take my phone back and turn off the song, that car getting right off. So I importune Israel. Please, Israel, turn off this song. Cause in my head, I already think of the next verse. And I know the next verse worse than the first. And this little rap scallion in the back bouncing up himself like he in a bouncing castle, giggling up himself saying, no, I'm not gonna change the song. No. Kartel and Spice are teaching my impressionable young cousins about the intricacies of intercourse. I go into jail. Le prison. You know, don't stop, don't collect $200, don't pass go, straight to jail. So I made the very risky decision to, you know, abandon the wheel for just a second and reach and turn the volume off. All for my other little cousin Gabby to reach all the way with a long arm, you know, stretch the father hands of God. She stretched her hand all the way and turned the thing back on. She turned it up louder. I finally reached the stoplight. And I put on the voice of God.
Listen, I ain't your mom or your little friends on the playground. I will cut your hip and I can make it look like an accident.
And of course, this was a hollow threat. You know, please don't try canceling me. I just, you know, get here. Please don't try cancel me already. And in that silence, they began to ask me all kind of questions about the sexual innuendo in the song. And I wasn't trying to have that birds and the bees conversation. Why am I going to deprive my aunt and my uncle the ability to, you know, the luxury of regaling their children, their respective picnic that they decided to have and not me? You know, I'm not going to, you know, rob them of that luxury. I'm gonna let them do that. It's not my job. So I had these little jits listening to La Boheme until we got to the theater. So I thought that the worst had finally passed. And, you know, they could watch this F-tier movie while I sleep. You know, the same F-tier movie that I almost pay a whole Elizabeth for. Little did I know that the worst would come shortly thereafter. Little did I know. I was so blissfully ignorant of what would happen the following day. I get a frantic call from my aunt. PJ, I need your help with Israel. I thinking that he need help with English homework or something like that, right? But I wasn't prepared for anything like this, my lord. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. I was not prepared for this. I ain't even had my tea yet. I going to wake him up for school this morning and his laptop was open.
I thought he was playing that damn Roblox game again. So I going to turn it off, but the screen was turned on to this website. I can't believe what my son was watching. I ready to take his little red Bishop Eldon right now.
I say no, man. I say it ain't so, man. She ain't even have to tell me. Just from how she the sound, I knew what she was talking about.
You got caught. You got busted. You watch your poor hub and be a fat fighting over food.
So I told her, I was like, just calm down. He was probably just curious. I was curious at that age.
But he say that you tell him about these things.
I say, hold on. Me? I tell your son to go on Pornhub and pulverize his meat?
He say he learned it from you, so I don't know what to do, but you need to talk to him now.
I hear his little self sniveling in the background, right? And a furtive yelp escaped his throat that was choked by tears. I was searching up the lyrics from the song. And just like that, my face gone cold. I swear my face gone colder than them fellas in the anime. Cause I knew then that I had messed up. But I didn't mess up because he happened to be on my phone and he found the song and he played it. Cause it's inevitable that he encounters these suggestive teams with all of the access that kids these days have to the internet. I channeling my inner boomer right now. I sound like FD. I should have discussed it with him when he asked me about it rather than avoiding it. Because trying to act like it never happened engendered a situation that was probably worse than had I addressed it in the first place. Because regardless of me thinking that, he's not of age, so we shouldn't be having this conversation, the damage was already done. He already had these questions in his head. So I could have actually controlled the narrative and passed it to him in a way that could have helped him form a healthy understanding of it even at that age. Now the boy out here looking at God knows what online. This is one of the many dangers of avoidance. More specifically, righteous avoidance. When you try to sweep something beneath the rug for what you deem to be the greater good. It allows for the consumer at best to look for questions elsewhere, or at worst, take your avoidance as an argument itself. That this thing that you avoided may not have existed in the first place. And that is exactly my main gripe with Pirates of the Caribbean. I knew the Pirates of the Caribbean was a very successful franchise, right? But hey, you only ain't tell me that this was a whole theme park ride. You ain't saying nothing about that. And then it dawned on me that during Christmas time in the Bahamas, the carnival would come to town, right? And we would have this one ride of the ship swinging back and forth like a pendulum. When all the people them picnic would be vomiting and getting sick on the ride, and then people would be slipping and falling down in the vomit, good times, right? So I wonder now if that was the actual ride from the Pirates of the Caribbean without me ever seeing the franchise in the first place. The Curse of the Black Pearl debuted in 2003 and somewhat signaled a revival in the pirate genre. I mean, it didn't necessarily die, there was a consistent stream of pirate movies since the early 1900s, but not as successful as POTC. POTC blew all of the rest of them out of the water. That was the first and last pirate pun of this video. Now, I didn't know this going into this video, but I learned that Disney was a part of this franchise. This is a Disney franchise. So I immediately knew that some skullduggery would be afoot. And to start with said skullduggery, we must start at the start. I don't think I'll be spoiling too much of the movie, but in any event, spoiler warning, you've been warned. Now right off the bat, we are greeted by an austerely and brilliantly white cast. Well, not brilliantly white, because apparently these pirates existed before the advent of soap and water. Apparently, because their teeth was gritty and they looked like they don't bathe. But from the trailer, I noticed that we had some black crew shipmen, potentially being in this movie. As I would assume, this is literally 1700 Jamaica after all. However, I probably shouldn't even say however, because I expected that there would be little to no development of any of these people of hue that we see in the trailer. It was until I looked at the complete visual guide that I got to get a little bit of an origin, not even an origin story, just some, a footnote of where these people came from. And we learned that these were escaped slaves from West Africa and Hispaniola. But that was the end of the Black Pearl's engagement with slavery or blackness in general in the whole film. That's it. Which boggles my mind, because you're literally in 1700 Jamaica that had a bustling slave economy at the time. How is it that you have no type of discussion of slavery or black people at all? How could you fail to even acknowledge one of the major underpinnings of Caribbean culture and history, other than in a visual guide that only diehards are gonna read anyway? Ain't nobody gonna read the visual guide. Thankfully, it would seem that the slave character would be expatiated on a little bit more in The World's End. But sadly, not as I had hoped. So obviously, there was a concerted effort to render this third film more worldly.
There's the French pirate, the Spanish pirate, there's a Chinese female pirate.
Shipwreck Cove is a fortress.
Oh yes, that sounds very piratey.
There is Amon the Corsair, Sri Sumhaji, and then Gentleman Joe Carr.
So it's an international.
As you can see, there's a medley of different ethnicities and genders and all kind of hues and things like that in the scene. But I won't focus on one person in particular. I won't focus on this fella named Gentleman Jacquard. Cause for a sec, I ain't gonna lie. Disney, you almost had me. You had me there in the first half. I was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They took Jacquard, right? And they juke him into the Brethren Court. But instead of addressing his origins in the main discourse of the film, I had to go scouring the deep recesses of the internet to find one pirated... I didn't expect there to be another pirate pun inside this video, but a pirated PDF copy of Pirates of the Caribbean, Legend of the Brethren Court. Why y'all Why? Tell me why Disney buried the whole man origin story in a book. A book that they obviously didn't plan on being faithful to in the first place. And don't tell me that it's because they wanted to protect the children, protect our babies from understanding or seeing black people or slavery. You know, they want to protect them from that. Because that sounds just as stupid as them people that is claim that they try to protect their children from understanding race in critical race theory. We can learn everything about Captain Norrington, who was daggering up Elizabeth Swann, who was a baby in comparison to him. But discussing the origins of Jacquard, oh no, foreign, you're running out, foreign. You're doing too much, you're asking for too much. We find out in the novel that I assume has a mature audience, so that's the reason why they could put it in the novel. But we find out that he was a slave that escaped his master and, you know, turned into a pirate and sailed the seven seas. Arne Belushki, sorry if I butcher that name, but Arne Belushki is from Trent University and she's an authority on piracy and the slave trade. And he claims that there is no indication that pirate crews offered slaves any kind of freedom that was denied them elsewhere in the Atlantic world. Several references show that pirates utilized a limited number of slaves for subordinate tasks on their vessels. Furthermore, marauding bands that had black men on board often left them behind when provisions ran low or when being pursued by naval forces. This suggests that these men of African descent were not integrated into pirate gangs and were not treated as equals. Their status may be considered slave-like. Pirates usually don't sell slaves, so their usage of this property was limited to practical uses during their exploits, particularly in the last few years of pirate activity. Therefore, this idea that piracy was this leftist wet dream where race became arbitrary and a fella like Joe Card could aspire to rise to the ranks of his fellow man is emphatically and arrogantly hogwash. Even Anita Waters, who has essayed on Caribbean culture at length, highlights that the European-American picture of pirates stand in a stark contrast to the view of pirates in black Jamaican culture, which centers squarely on the tortures, murders, and other atrocities against innocent people carried out by actual pirates. In Afro-Jamaican culture, pirates are plantation elite who controlled the enslaved labor of Africans. So Disney lying about race and misrepresenting minority cultures and what is wet. They skated around the idea of slavery, and when they finally confronted the idea of race, they blatantly lied about it. What was even more hilarious to me was that they actually had a scene that directly and explicitly dealt with race in The World's End, but they deleted it.
We had a deal, Jack. I contracted you to deliver cargo on my behalf. You chose to liberate it.
People aren't cargo, mate.
So instead of that rather trite and prosaic decry of slavery from Sparrow, what actually made into the film? What actually got there? What do we actually see in theaters?
Perhaps you'll consider an alternative arrangement. One which requires absolutely nothing from you, but information.
Regarding the Brethren Court, no doubt.
Under the guise of saving time, not the directors, this ain't a Snyder cut, you know what I'm saying? And under the guise of saving time and shaving some time so that this could air in theaters, all acknowledgements of slavery were removed. So this concept that is unfortunately essential to the Caribbean experience, history, and culture has been erased. However, let's play devil's advocate and, indulge in a thought exercise and think about what would have actually changed had this deleted scene made it into the original film. Sparrow would have been the good guy that was saving slaves, wanted to free the slaves. Like Sparrow, right? And then Beckett would have been the bigot that wanted to keep slaves. Bad guy Beckett, yeah. So at that point, the film would have at least had an acknowledgement of Caribbean slavery. Yet, we wouldn't really get any real commentary on the matters. The idea of slavery and piracy and how it all fits into capitalism. No, that is far too far for this action comedy. And what is pretended that the subsequent sequels of this franchise would also not deal with slavery or race like that, claiming that Captain Jack Sparrow would probably exemplify the free living and independent adventurer, loyal to his own personal code, eroticized but free of familial obligations. He'll have some encounter with a dusky daughter or some other exotic object of desire. Caribbean cultures will be shortchanged and misrepresented. And oh, how right you were, my dear.
But foreign! What about Tia Dalma? She has a prominent role as a black woman, and surely that counts for something, right?
Listen, I didn't put it in the thumbnail, for clickbait. Tia Dalma is the cherry on top. And if you've seen my first drag of Caribbean portrayals in popular media, then you probably know where I'm going with this. She is literally depicted as the popular and very harmful trope, stereotype of the Haitian voodoo priestess. Furthermore, as Kameelah Martin Samuel states, Disney uses her as a device to reify a more vulgar mode of colonialism via piracy, even when she's read as a Yamonja or Ocean. The Calypso is an imaginated sea goddess with superficial ties at best to a traditional African religion, reflecting the degree to which conjure, obeah, voodoo, and the like are employed as a gimmick by Disney. All Calypso was there for was to be a love interest and then to be a special effect. They don't even get the obeah or the voodoo part right. She transforms via studio trickery rather than some supernatural magic, which when compounded together makes a much larger commentary on, Disney, the franchise, Hollywood itself. Pirates of the Caribbean had absolutely nothing to do with the Caribbean. Rather, it had everything to do with the stereotypes surrounding the Caribbean. It was clear that there was absolutely no intention to interact with these important concepts. It's just a fun pirate movie, right? Don't look too much into it. Let Disney depict Caribbean culture and history emphatically wrong, whilst also, reaping a large amount of opulence in the process, as well as indirectly, erroneously educating a bunch of people, millions of people, about Caribbean culture and history. Just gesture to globalism, just gesture to slavery and race and stuff like that, but don't actually do it. Don't actually use any of the devices inside this movie to make commentary on these very real and nuanced experiences. Just avoid the hard conversations, much like I did with my little cousins. If it's not clear, I'm definitely being facetious. Actually, no, just sarcastic, because there's absolutely nothing funny about it. As I resent this take, there's absolutely no reason to disengage with the art critically, simply because you don't feel as though they had any intention to make the critique that they were making. Especially when you have people in this world that would subconsciously conflate the tropes presented in this film with reality. Sure, we could laugh, trivialize the situation, and call these people stupid, but stupid people don't get stupid all by themselves. They were aided by a system that not only enables the distortion and erasure of minority cultures, but rewards them handsomely for it. As Pirates of the Caribbean is one of the most successful franchises next to Fast and Furious, both of which should have been stopped while they were ahead. But anyway, tap on that if you want to see more examples of the dangers associated with people telling your story rather than you telling it yourself. I can see you over there.